He had crazy humor. Jack looked at everything upside down. If you knew him well, you loved him. So we're going to start off with some stories. Vito's going to tell his probably in the earlier days, and then I'll come back with a bunch of them in the later days that I worked with Jack. Go ahead, Vito.
Thank you, Phil. I first met Jack in 1966 at, believe it or not, Democrat Point. I met him there one morning, and we walked down to what was then the jetty together. And we met several times after that at Democrat Point. There came a time that he worked for the Daily News, which was in Brooklyn at the time, on Atlantic Avenue. And I was a young cop in the city on the time, and I worked in the 78th precinct where the Daily News was located. So I would stop at time to time and see Jack, who was working on the loading dock. And we would talk and we'd make plans to go fishing. And I could tell you many stories, but in around 1969, 68, I went on special assignment and I didn't see Jack for about 4 or 5 years. The next time I ran into him, it was at by Elephant Rock, down by the Stones. And I didn't know who he was, he didn't know who I was. It was dark night, and we're walking back, and finally Jack says, "Don't I know you?" You know, I guess I was chubby, you know. And I said, "Yeah, I think, who are you?" So he tells me, I said, "Well, Vito, you know." And he says, "Oh, you know, I have my camper up there." And I guess that was probably the early 70s when he had his camper up there. And I'll tell you one thing, if, as the gentleman said, you have a hook in your hand, Jack was the man to call. He was always there. If you needed a hot cup of coffee in his camper, come on in, have a cup of coffee. So he was, you know, pretty well known out here. And one story I'm going to tell about Jack that many people don't believe is he was fishing in Scott's one day, and he's throwing a tin. I think, Joe, you know the story. And all of a sudden, a helicopter came around the lighthouse. Jack made a cast, and it wrapped around the pontoon. And Jack caught a helicopter. And he was cursing because he burnt all the gears in his 704. And he was furious. But that's a true story. How it happened, I don't know.
The one that got away.
He found a way, right? I found out that he was the youngest of 9 children. That's what I found. I never knew that. And I found out from talking to some family members. And I also found out that his father was instrumental, opened the first Chinese restaurant in the metropolitan area in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And shortly thereafter, they went to a takeout, and they discovered the packets that you see today in the restaurant with mustard and soy sauce. And Jack was a veteran, spent 4 years in the Air Force, and I would run into him from time to time at the VA in Northport. And he also had he worked out with the charter boats a free day of fishing for disabled veterans. And afterwards, the American Legion would have a barbecue. I was fortunate to work as a worker on one of those fluke trips on the party boats out in Montauk here. And as I say, I went to see Jack one time in Stony Brook Hospital, and he was cut, I think, almost up to his ear. And all we spoke about was fishing. Every time I'd ask him, "How are you? How you fishing? How's the fishing?" So that was always on his mind. And I just prepared a small little tribute here. And it's entitled a Requiem for a Surf Casting Legend. The lighthouse went dim, its foghorn fell mute as a final farewell and a final salute. Angels in wetsuits, sent to guide the way, pointed to the heavens as a place he could stay. The majestic cliffs cried out in sorrow, and the boulders below knew of no tomorrow. Word quickly spread of his departure from this land, and many a tough surfman shed a tear in the sand. Some may recall his camper in the grass, and the offer of coffee to all who would pass. A hook in your hand was no reason to bawl. The surf casting legend was always on call. He loved to drive his Jeep on the beach, and always a camera within easy reach. He often swam to an offshore stone, and Wigfish Rock was considered his home. As time went on and the years rolled past, the vigor of his youth could no longer last. It was a painful day when he made up his mind that the best days of fishing were left far behind. As his fragile body began to soar, he fought a brave battle till he could take no more. He now fishes with angels and St. Peter too. Come on in, Wabbit. Remember Wabbit? We've been waiting for you. That's how I remember.